Mrs. Cummings. We're Kim's audience for her persuasive speech on homeschooling versus public education. We already have our visual aids, and Kim will be starting in just a moment.
Good afternoon. Our general purpose of this speech is should parents provide public education or homeschool their children. The specific purpose is to weigh the pros and cons of public education or homeschooling. The central idea of the speech: there always have been and will be a controversy to whether parents should provide a public education or homeschool their children. My introduction is: the debate between public education and homeschooling has many controversial pros and cons. The pros of receiving public education are varied. The first one would be students get an opportunity to learn in a group setting, which is pretty much you get a lot more in class, you get a lot more students, you get a lot more variety of children in different races and different social groups that they will be able to be around, other than being just centralized at home by themselves. Students are able to participate in extracurricular activities, which they would have sports, they would have prom, they would also have homecoming, and you think about different things such as cheerleading and anything that they can participate in, and you also think about the clubs and yearbook, honor society, and things like that they can participate in with being in public school. There are more curriculum opportunities, which I really agree on, because the students have pretty much a basic different Englishes that they can participate in, language arts, they have several that they can choose, and also the variety of math and general education that they are provided in public school. Students meet and interact with diverse populations. So I would say also with boys and girls being in a group, they can participate in different age groups, different races, any type of Asian, African American, Caucasian, Latin, all of them can pretty much participate in the same diverse population area. There are several cons to attending public school. Alright, we have the higher teacher-to-student ratio, which some public schools will have a big, huge, overwhelming field class, where it would be overfilled in some of the classes, and that's been a problem in pretty much higher states, upper states as New York and different states that have overcrowded schools, and that can pose a problem for, as opposed to homeschooling, which there would be centralized, it'll be just one child. Or it could be several siblings that they have in the home. There's less independence because the learning is scheduled, which as we've been in school, they have schedules that we have to follow, different periods that we have to go to different classes. You have to make homeroom, then you have to have at least 6 to 7 classes that you have to go to and participate in. In all different areas. So you have a little time to get to those classes, little time to socialize with your friends, unless it's gym or different other activities that they can participate in that requires socializing. Also, the students have no choice in choosing their curriculum. Now it's kind of pretty much where you can choose your classes, but to a certain extent. Usually if you have one class one year in public school, they move you on to the next. You get your schedule basically telling you what classes you have for your next class, for your next year, starting year. You don't usually get to pick. If you have succeeded in that area, you don't get to go above, unless you have a parent or guardian come out and move you up to a different grade, which requires extra testing for that. Now we're going to talk about homeschooling and how it has several pros. Now we're going to choose from this list that I have. I have a little small list here. Parents and providers are free to choose the curriculum, which parents, with the homeschooling, they can choose where you want to start. They do a small, simple testing, and if you succeed above whatever grade that you're supposed to be in, or whatever the state requires you to be in, you can go above that. You have a choice to go above that or below that if you want to. So it's basically, it stays in your level, whatever level or above level, if you want to choose to go ahead for that. Also, parents and providers have an input in the scheduling. So you have many parents that are homeschooling their students that work, so they can choose to do it in the day, or you can choose to do it a couple of hours of the day. You don't have to do it an all-day thing from like an 8 to 3 or whatever's required, and as the state provides the child to go, if you were to go to public schooling. You can choose whatever hours you would like to, and that's free of scheduling weekends or however you want to. Also, you have their smaller teacher ratio, which definitely is a pro for me, because you have just that one student to focus on. That one, don't have a big peer group. So you have your two siblings or two, students that you can basically, or one student that you can basically focus on, instead of looking at, several different levels of students, to interact with. Students learn to be independent, which is very good, very, very good. I really agree with that statement. They really learn to be independent. Some people think that they don't get as much socializing, as far as going with other kids and things like that, but I really believe that they do. They learn to be more independent once they get out into the real world and out into, the work source field. There are several drawbacks to homeschooling. Parents and providers have to pay for the educational materials. So therefore, you have to come out of your pocket for the materials, and you have to come out of the pocket for all of your curriculums and books and everything else. So it could get kind of pricey if you're looking into doing homeschooling. Teachers are not always qualified to teach all subjects. I know here in Florida they require students, the teachers, to either be a parent, or if you're their guardian, you have to have a GED if you are required to, if you want to do homeschooling, but you're not required to have any type of teaching certificate or anything, a master's, bachelor's or master's degree in teaching or education. Social interaction is limited, and again, we talked about that as far as the social interaction being limited, as far as they might have one child, but there are different, especially if you have one child, you can take them to social groups as far as ballet or karate or different types of, socializing groups where they could, do a lot of socializing in and getting their peer groups and different things like that. It's harder for students to get into college, which is definitely, that's another controversy also, because we have some students that are missionary that learn to, they're pretty much homeschooled and they go from place to place along with their parents, but they have gone on to go to colleges. Look at Tim Tebow. He was a homeschooled child as far as missionary and everything, so he was able to go on to, UNF and play, UF and play schooling for football. And also, I wanted my audience to take a look at the visual aid that I have provide them. We have it to where you see that 57% of schools, public school, students are in public school, and you have a very small percentage of homeschooling, which is like 3%, but this was in 1998. And that's that visual aid. And also, I wanted to read something in a report that they had. I wanted to read to you guys. The report presents, this is from the Scholastic Achievement and Demographic Characteristics of Homeschool Students in 1998. This shows that the report presents the results of the largest survey and testing program for students in homeschool to date. In spring of 1998, 20,760 K through 12 homeschool students in 11,930 families were administered either the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, which we all know as the ITBS, we've heard of that before, or the test of achievement and proficiency, which is the TAP test, depending on their current grade. So whatever grade they were in, they were given this test. This showed the major findings include the achievement test scores of this group of homeschool students were exceptionally high. The median scores were typically in the 70th to 80th percentile. And 25% of homeschool students are enrolled, who were enrolled in one or more grades. They were enrolled in one or more grades above average of their student peers, of their school peers, of public school peers. Okay, and this also shows that because this was not a controlled experiment, the study does not demonstrate that homeschooling is superior to public or private schools, and the result must be interpreted with caution. So it's also still mixed in with this controversy, but it also says the report clearly suggests, however, the homeschool students do quite well in their educational environment. So it does not say, some people are very, very biased on the subject of homeschool versus public school. And in conclusion, based on the research, we have parents and providers are basically responsible for the decision as to whether their child should attend public school or homeschool by thoroughly investigating the pros and cons of each and determining what's best for their child based on the needs and their interests. Now I want to go ahead and do a bibliography of the information and where we received the information from. We retrieved the information. We have www.schoolnyc.gov. We also retrieved www.wikipedia.org, www.homeschoolbydesign.com, and www.homeschoolingversuspublicschool.html. Visual aids retrieved are from iandcommunity.org and blessedfamilyoflowers.files.wordpress.com. Thank you very much.